Hey guys, it's Bailey here with our fourth or fifth or whatever episode we're on of the CDH The Lost podcast. We're here to talk about tournament talk because it's tournament season. That's exciting. I'm here again with Dylan, who's currently snowed in, so that's really good for him. And
Yep.
then Nick. Say hey guys.
Hey,
Hello.
I'm not snowed in. I just don't have a life.
Imagine.
True. Yeah, Dylan's in Arizona right now, and it's snowing, and apparently it's going to be 3 feet of snow.
It's looking like more than 3 feet.
That's kind of crazy.
We're at least 2 feet right now, and it's still going. No
That's
signs of
cray
stopping.
cray.
But
Okay, so what is talking about tournaments? Well, it's where we talk about tournaments. Big
crazy.
surprise. Me and Nick at least are in Washington State, and there's like 4 tournaments in 3 months, which is quite a bit of tournaments. Did you think about like turnover rate and like the amount of energy you have to put into a tournament? Because it is kind of mentally draining for something you do as a side hustle, as just a hobby. You do put a lot of like time and energy into it. So we're going to talk about like our prep, what tournaments we're going to attend, why we're doing it, and stuff like that. Our first topic is upcoming tournaments that we're attending. So this weekend, the 10th of February, me and Nick and a bunch of other people from the Whatcom County area are going down to Issaquah, Washington to compete in CDH4, Return of the King. It's hosted by CEDH, which is a really cool Discord. They have a team that I so happen to be on, and they always throw amazing tournaments. Always great turnout, great prizes, great energy, really well run. Which is kind of it's sick. I love it. And then literally the next weekend, at least I'm going to it. I don't know if Nick is. But we have Lacey in Lacey, Washington. We have the OCC, which is the Olympic Cards Championship, I believe. I could be wrong about the name. It's a tournament in Lacey, Washington. That's where like Atlas's crew home store is. Really good competition, really good tournament, really well run, really good judges. So that's sick. And then that's all like super local for the time being. And then later in April, I guess in March, there's another one in Mount Vernon area for Aegis Games. They're holding like a big convention, and there's going to be a CDH tournament with a 30th anniversary Black Lotus for first place, which is epic. That's cool. And then me and Dylan gets involved in one of these finally. We are going to Punt City 3 in Philadelphia, which is kind of a long way for 2 broke white guys.
It's April 6th and 7th, right?
I think so. I don't know. I just signed up.
True.
It's April something.
It's April 6th and 7th.
It's April 6th and 7th, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like me, Parker, Dylan, that's his name. And then like
me.
6 or 7 guys from Lacey are going to Philly, which is kind of crazy. It's going to be fun. We're going to take the entire scene by storm and show them why the Northwest is maybe good at CDH.
Possibly.
Hopefully Atlas is going to do that. I don't know if anyone else is.
No.
But yeah, those are the tournaments that are upcoming. Do you guys have any comments or concerns about those?
I'm just sad I can't be there. I love the just PNW's grind of tournaments.
Yeah, I'm kind of impressed by the density and the quality of the tournaments up here. They happen pretty frequently, and I see a lot of good turnouts at these events.
Yeah, it's like a solid one each month, which is really good for a super small format. That's growing. It's definitely growing, but for a smaller format, it's definitely a large part of the community up here.
Yeah, no, now I'm stuck just doing online tournaments because they're there.
Hey,
Yeah.
but you can work in
Hey,
that
like,
Corvold shuffle.
Oh yeah.
true.
Good old wish board.
You can put Rocco in on your side table.
Oh yeah, in my rocker
It's
deck.
also your commander.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna try to do
Yeah,
Mox Masters this weekend, but
but
don't
with the snow.
don't think I'll have the internet connection at this rate to do it.
Yeah, well, we
But
can hope. And you got to get your
uh,
tournament prep in anyway, so.
true.
question about where you're at. I know some parts of Arizona they build flat roofs. Is your campus a flat roof?
It is not.
Okay, I was
So
gonna pray for you tonight if it was.
we
'Cause
we
you're
will not get caved in
okay.
overnight.
Okay. Yeah, that
So
happened to one of my family members. It snowed really bad one year, and they had flat roof because it's Arizona and that's a thing. And it caved in. So I was just making sure you weren't
yeah.
gonna be one of those cases where we lose a podcast member.
Oh goodness. No. It's slanted roofs. They get snow decently often up here in Flagstaff, so
I would like to take a second to ask about one of those cases. Bailey, have you lost podcast members before? Am I your second string?
I I haven't lost any podcast members. I've been kicked off a podcast.
Oh,
oh
so you're the lost member. Is that why we're called CDH the Lost?
A little bit.
Bailey the
Uh,
Lost.
technically, I guess I lost 3 podcast members because they were no longer in my life.
Well, it is what it is. Here we are.
Yeah, those episodes I still have saved because I was the editor of them. They might come out in public. They were really funny.
We won't abandon
Interesting.
you, Bailey.
Well, I know Nick won't. I know where he lives.
You also know
I
where
don't
I
feel
live,
safe
Bailey.
anymore.
Anyway,
Moving on.
so the next topic is how we go about choosing our decks for tournaments. This is a really good topic because we all kind of have 3 different styles or approaches to this. I'll go first because I think I have the most experience with tournaments, maybe at least in-person tournaments. Um, I have this thing where I pick a deck and I'll play it for like 2 weeks before the tournament, and then the night before, I'm like, this deck's bad. It's not going to win any games, and I build a new deck hours before the tournament, and that's the deck I play.
Like taking Mono
It
Blue
doesn't work
Fairy
out.
to CCU.
Mono Blue Safari, that one worked out. I did forget not Basalt Monolith, Rings of Bright Hearth
You did.
to win the game.
We're taking Yasan to
Uh,
oh. What did you take Yasan to? You borrowed Cody's Yasan deck.
yeah, I forgot which tournament that was. Silicon Dynasty.
Yeah, that was Silicon Dynasty.
Yeah. Notably where I also got my Tabernacle.
True.
So I was gonna play Fibblefip with the Tabernacle proxy in there. And the night before, I'm like, Cody, let me play Yisan. Me playing 2 games of Yisan before in my life. And I played it and I got 2 wins. I beat Lua round 1 and I was ecstatic, and then everything else went downhill. Turns out when you're playing a bunch of 1/1 dorks and there's Niv Mizzets everywhere, they eat all your creatures.
Yeah.
That's what I got to experience.
That sounds familiar to a
Which was
certain
fun.
creature that does 1 damage to a lot of targets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, they would never print a card that just says, I'm gonna do 1 damage. Anytime something
Yeah,
happens.
definitely not.
Never.
For like 2 mana or something.
And they
Yeah, that
wouldn't
would
put
be
flash and
ridiculous.
token generation on it.
What?
No.
That would be a dumb card design.
Yeah, so that's my way of picking a deck is I build a new one the night before typically. This time, it's like a week before I built a new deck, and we're playing that, I think.
What
Hopefully.
deck?
We're trying to wean him off of it. Clearly, it's not working very well, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's Atraxa currently, but it's either going to be Atraxa with Adnaz or
Oh
Atraxa with
no.
Necromancy. Necropones with
I
Necropones.
think Necro's a little better, Bailey.
I think so too. But ad nauseum. I'm an ad nauseum gamer.
I mean,
I've cast ad
True.
nauseum once so far at 33. I did not get a win.
Fair
it'd
enough.
be like that a lot of games.
So it's going to be Necropones, I fear. But I haven't built that version yet. So I think I'm going to wait until tomorrow. Okay, Nick, how do you go about choosing your deck? Because you're a weird case.
Well, see, I pick bad decks. I don't think I've brought a like tier 1 or deck that's in the current meta, like mainstream, to a tournament yet. I think the closest I got to that was playing Brago at a tournament, and that was long after Brago's prime. So I kind of
Yeah,
just
it was.
I take a commander that's not seeing play, and I try to push it to the absolute limit and do as much as I can with it, namely Falco Spara. It doesn't always work out the best, but I've had some decent showings. I routinely get knocked out in semifinal games, usually by Kinnan decks.
By Jacob. Yeah.
By Jacob.
Or playing
I
against
fear.
Kenrith.
Oh, that's a lie, actually. No, I took Corvold to a tournament. What am I talking about?
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and you did lose semifinals
To Kinnan,
to Kinnan
which was Jacob.
on like turn 2 or 3.
The wishboard didn't get there.
Turn 3, because I actually tried to jam a turn 1 win that game. And somebody had Force
Oh,
of Will,
goodness.
and I was like, oh. Got me there.
And then for this weekend, you're playing Cormella, I imagine.
Yeah, it's the voices are telling me to play Garuda, but I think I'm gonna try and stick to Cormella
Nick.
just because I've been playing it for a while and tuning it quite a bit. But Garuda's shiny.
True. You did
do have a
buy
serialized Garuda.
a fancy Garuda.
Surely because it has a fancy little number on it, that means I win games, right?
True.
True.
It says it can't be countered if it's like that.
Oh, you're so right. Oh, I should put. On a side note, that deck needs a Cavernous Souls.
True.
Yeah? Think so?
Okay,
Maybe.
Dylan,
Okay.
you're
so
probably
my
the most you're the consistent player here.
Yeah, so I really like Naya, turns out. So I got into format playing Atla, which is a bad deck. Not a good deck. And then I was like, Rocco might just be better. And I've been playing Rocco for a year and a half. And just within like the last few months, I've been like, hey, blue. Crazy color, turns out. So I've been experimenting a lot with Pietro, which is a bad magic card, but that's okay. And I just built the Malcolm Timna deck, which is probably what I'll be playing this weekend if I'm able to play. And then, but like I really like to take decks that are played but underexplored. So like Rocco, I think a lot of people are very like narrow-minded with it. They're like, oh, we can jam Rector on turn 2 and waste 23 slots in the deck. And I'm like, well, maybe not. But I do like to play
What if we didn't do
consistently the
that?
same deck. Just like true. I do get uncomfortable playing a deck that I'm not comfortable with at larger tournaments. Though the online tournaments I do explore, I've played Crocs and Kuderos and Tyam, which was a time. But
I mean, sometimes you just gotta take a
mostly,
deck through the proving grounds. You gotta test it.
yeah. Someday I'll have Crocs and Kuderos at a point where I'm willing to take it to an actual tournament. I like that deck a lot.
Look, man, if I can get Falco there, you can do it.
True. But
All right, so that's how we all like choose our decks. Is Dylan's definitely like the most consistent one, where he'll kind of be on a deck for 3 to 4 months
yeah,
at least, and be brewing it, upgrading the deck, figuring out how the deck works, and bringing it to a tournament. And then I'm sporadic, and then Nick's kind of like the middle ground, where he just likes to play a deck that he enjoys, over like the actual winning process. Even though winning is nice, and I think
True.
Nick's gonna get quite a few wins with Carmella this weekend, just because it's
Ormella's a
a
good
deck
deck.
that attacks on a different axis that I don't think people are going to be ready for. And then, so the next one is, how do we go about like practicing a deck or testing a deck for a tournament? I guess I'll go first. With the way I choose a deck is I just build one the night before. You don't really get to test the deck. I get a solid like 3 test hands in before I sit down for game 1 most of the time. Which isn't great. I'll be
Be a
honest.
game.
There's been tournaments where I bring like a zombie with only 3 wizards in the deck, and one of them is a zombie, and the other one is a tutor for wizards. That was a bad deck. I will be like honest with that. That was just a bad deck. I did bad at the tournament. Only 1 loss technically in 5 rounds, which is really good. 0 wins, but
Yeah.
I don't get to test the decks a lot. I'm changing it up a little bit. I played Atraxa before. I got 2 good results at tournaments with it. I got top 4 2 tournaments in a row with Atraxa. So I'm confident that I know how Atraxa works and how it plays. I'm just taking a different spin with it. So my practice games, I've done like 3 of them so far, and all of them have been hell matches. I
Oh,
played a 3-hour game, a 2-hour game, and another 2-hour game with it so far. So I'm excited
sounds like
to have
fun.
no brain. Yeah, my brain's about to be mush.
True.
Which is what I live for. And then Nick, how do you go about testing a deck or practicing a deck?
Well, I mean, so generally we have like weekly events at our shops. So what I'll do is I'll have like the deck I've been playing, and that'll be what I use for normal rounds. And then I'll have proxied out to completion a deck I want to test. And when we do pick up like casual games in between, I'll pull it out and I'll test it. And then after playing with it for a day, I'll go home, I'll make some changes, edit the list a bit, and I'll repeat that cycle a couple weeks until I feel like it's at a better stage. And then I'll start taking it as the main deck to play in those. And if I like how it performs there and I feel like it's playable and it's an enjoyable like deck for me specifically, then maybe I'll consider taking it to a tournament if there's one upcoming. The deck kind of just has to hold my attention span for long enough, and I just kind of grind out some reps with it and just keep tuning, because a lot of the decks I'm playing are not super established, so there's not a lot of resources for me to go and draw from when I'm trying to build the deck itself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd never thought about using the in between rounds or before rounds as a time to test decks that I might be interested in. I just always play like the deck I'm gonna play during the rounds because I'm like, I gotta practice with this deck. But that's a good way to actually see if a deck might be up your alley or not.
Yeah, it usually works out pretty
Yeah.
good for me, I feel like.
All right, Dylan, how do you go about testing a deck for a tournament?
Okay. So for the longest time, I was able to go to these weekly events because I lived in Washington. And that was really nice. Just being able to go and just test a deck, and just get reps in on it. Now it's a lot more difficult. The shop here in Flagstaff doesn't really have a CEDH scene. So most of my testing happens through like online tournaments, which is pretty funny that I'm testing for tournaments in tournaments. Or if I can get people to jam games online, though with my internet that's a little difficult. Um, but I need to jam more games if I'm going to Pun City, because I don't think I'm bringing Rocco. It's not in a good spot right now, so I need to practice a different deck. But right now I don't really have a way to get reps in. very easily.
Yeah, like that's interesting. Like I stopped being the tournament organizer for Tuesdays, so I lost like an entire dedicated day to Magic because it was like my day off, and all I would do is work on a CDH decks and then go at like 3, and from like 5 to 10 I would just be playing CDH games just about, minus running the tournaments. So it's been a weird switch because I've had to change my focus on how I practice, I think, because then I could just jam as many games and ram my head into it. But now I get less games. I get like 10 to 20 games less a month than I was getting, which I'm still getting a solid amount. I'm still getting 20 to 25 games in every month, which is still pretty good, probably better than most people. But I was just using the jamming my head into a door method until I got the door open most of the time. But now I have to take a more strategic approach. Like I got a journal now where I'm writing down hands, why I'm keeping them, the decks I'm playing, and then what happens throughout the game to hopefully get more of an insight of the deck through less games, which I think is a thing that I have to be doing because I don't get to jam 60, 70 games a week because of the decisions I made in my life, which I think were good. But like even the play group of Dylan, me, Dean, and one other person just jamming games like almost every night until 2 in the morning. Stopped doing that because life happens. They went to college, so I'm all alone.
Wow.
So I can't just jam games like Fibblefip, for example.
Yeah.
I got really good with Fibblefip. I don't think it's because the deck was good or I'm necessarily a good player. I think I've played the most amount of Fibblefip Commander than anyone else in the world. Like the 8-month period where I only played Fibblefip, I probably got over 1,000 games of CDH in playing Fibblefip. And I think that's why I was able to perform so well with such a bad deck, was because I was just jamming my head in. But I don't have that opportunity anymore. Which is an intriguing prospect for me. Because that's what I've been doing all my life. Like football, the only way you really get better in football is jamming your head in and putting your head down in practice and working harder and becoming stronger, faster, and just better than the other people by the time you put in. Which worked for me for the longest time, but now I don't have time for that, so I have to be more strategic with it.
Yeah, you just kind of have to take better advantage of the time you do have, be more efficient with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I've played a total of 3 games in the last month.
That's pretty sick.
Which isn't great. And they were all on Pietro Frank, which is not a deck I am comfortable bringing to Punt City at all. I wonder. It's almost as if the deck is very incomplete right now. But I don't know. I need to start jamming games online because it's about the only way I'm going to get games in. But
yeah, to be fair, Pietro just got a new toy.
What card?
It's the tutorable black-blue land from Markov Manor.
It's so bad, Bailey.
It enters the battlefield you surveil.
It's not good. I don't think it's good. It's so gimmicky.
Cast Vamp Tutor.
Fetch.
In response to the surveil.
Yeah.
Like in response to the surveil. Get the card on top, put it in the graveyard, attack. Get that card you just put in your graveyard to your hand.
I don't know if the deck can afford another afford a tap land.
It probably can't. I'm just saying it's a new toy.
I'm more excited about the Final Word Phantom for the deck. I think the card's really good in control decks.
I do have one of those bad boys sitting in my binder right now because I pre-ordered him.
I do need to put it back into Malcolm Timna because I think it was a mistake to cut it.
Final Word Phantom?
It's a really good Timna attacker.
Yeah, I think
and
that's
it's
exactly the deck that should have him.
That deck got a lot of cards in this latest set.
Delny.
Yeah.
Good God.
But that's besides the point.
Looks at Delany.
Yeah. I could just play Pietro Timna and then still play my bad commander in good colors. But that's besides the point.
Yeah. All right. Now this is the next topic or question that we have to answer is why do we play in tournaments? I'm gonna have Dylan. You get to start on this one.
Okay. Initially, it was kind of just like very impulsive. It was like, everyone went to Monarch. It was Monarch, right? The one you Dean
Yeah, Marchesa.
Marchesa. That's what it was. And I was like, damn, I missed out. So I was like, fuck it. Let's go to Oktoberfest and bring this for a format I've never played and bring this really bad deck. And so it was just a very like, I'm gonna get out of my comfort zone, travel across the country, and just go play in a tournament, get better at the game. Now it's like, now I'm there to win. Obviously, that's the goal, is to make top 16. And just it's really good practice. The more tournaments I play in, I feel the better I get. It's a much faster increase in just capability in the game than just jamming games, because you get to see new decks and new players and different play styles. So it's a change of scenery. They're fun. I really enjoy traveling. I really enjoy playing Commander to its highest potential. And tournaments really bring out like just the best players in the world to come play this silly little game with little pieces of cardboard, and it's great. It's fun, good social event.
Yeah, those are all very good points. Nick, why do you play in tournaments? You're pretty new to the tournament scene.
I mean, the whole spirit of the CDH scene, right? It's play at the highest level you can with the best cards you can with the intent of winning, right? And what better place to do that than a high stakes environment where there is something on the line and like the games matter. Like you have a little bit of stake in it. You paid the money to be there. You traveled. You set out for it. Whatever it is, but like it's just a higher stakes environment, and I think it brings out the best in a lot of players. And to play against people when they're at their best is really fun for me.
Yeah. I think I have like a mixture of both of your sentiments, which are pretty much the same. I little backstory on my life, I guess. I have been playing Magic since I was like 11 or 12, and it was standard. I
Gross.
I would go compete at tournaments at Cosmic Games back in the day, Wizards Tower, and other stores in Bellingham like that. And because my mom's ex-boyfriend used to play, and he was pretty competitive about it because his friends were. So I just got by secondhand addicted to competitive play and competing at the highest level that you can possibly reach. And then the store in Linden, Heroes Resource at the time, they had like a big community shift when Throne of Eldraine came out, and Oko took Standard by storm and created a less than pleasant play pattern for a lot of people. If you weren't in the competitive scene, I thought it was pretty good in the competitive sense, but not everyone was playing Standard to compete at the highest level. So there was a shift from Standard to Commander, and I was playing a fun Standard deck that was able to beat the top tier decks. So I tried doing that in Commander. The first Commander deck I got was the Precon Demon one, from 2014 or 2015, something like that. And I switched Omnixilus the Planeswalker out to Marilyn the Mornsong. This was before Opposition Agent, so it wasn't like you just win the game on your next turn when you get Oppo and play it. It was just a card I thought was cool, because I can tutor up like Cabal Coffers and Urborg and generate a bunch of mana to play giant demons. But I got banned from playing it because it was too good. Because you have a tutor every turn. Everyone has a tutor every turn. So it didn't lead to fun, long-lasting games. And I was like, wow, Commander literally sucks. I can't play the cards I want. And since that day, I've held this testament that Commander is my least favorite Magic format. But everyone around only played Commander, really. So I was like in a rock and a hard place. Do I stop playing a game that I love, or do I play and try to play the format the way I want to play it? And I chose the latter, obviously. And so I was building these weird decks that shouldn't have won, like Mavinda, which is mono white spellslinger.
People hated
And
that deck.
yeah, that deck was annoying to play against, I'm aware, but it was fun to me because it was something unique that was able to win. And at the time, Brandon was running things. Brandon was running things at Maple Manors for Commander events, and he put me, Harley, and then Sabian in a pod, and he was like, hey, Sabian's playing basically a CDH deck. It's okay if you lose, but you guys have the two strongest decks, and he refuses to play in CDH. And I was playing Mavinda, and we sat there for 3 hours because it was the last round, and he was like, Bailey. Sabian was like, Bailey, you're not going to win. My deck is just better than yours. And I sat there for 3 hours, grinded him out, and won the game with my high power deck that wasn't even a high power combo deck versus his CDH Tatiova deck. And then Brandon was like, hey, you just beat a CDH deck with a high power deck that's not even on Soul Ring, because I wasn't on Soul Ring, or any like real mana rocks, because I was like, I'm quirky, I'm unique. And he was like, hey, come over to my house and play CDH. And then my eyes opened wide when I went over there and was like, hey, they don't care what I play. I was playing a deck with Blood Moon, Back to Basics, Strip Mine, even Armageddon was in my first deck that I played.
That's
so
based.
every card that gets you banned
so
in every
nasty.
other format and in Commander, they were like, this is sick. We love this. And then I was like, this is my format. And I went over to his house like twice a week for 4 or 5 months during COVID, which is illegal,
Well,
but
not
we
illegal,
were
just
having a blast.
ill-advised.
Yeah. we were having a blast. I played Cedh, River Cutthroat, Dargo, Jessica when the set came out, and they were
Dude,
like, wow, this is really cool. And
you were
then
so high on
we
Dargo.
got the sentiment. I know. I was so high on Dargo, and it's amazing to see people finally realize that Dargo is actually just a broken
Such a
magic
good
card.
card.
Yeah. But I played him the week after the set came out, which was really cool. And I just fell in love with the format because it gave me a way to play Magic, which is one of the best games ever made, probably
True.
next to football, but definitely one of the best games ever made. I love playing it. I love the community, and it gave me a way to fuel my competitiveness. Because in high school, I was pretty decent at football. I'm not going to say I was the best, but I got a scholarship to go play football at a college, and I had to turn it down for health reasons. I got like 13 concussions, and they were like, probably shouldn't play football ever
Recorded
again.
concussions.
Recorded concussions.
A little bit
So
concerning.
I turned down playing a game that I loved, and then CDH came along, and it kind of filled that void for me. And now my leading into the next thing, and kind of still staying in the why we play in tournaments, is I strive to be the best that I can in anything that I do. So these tournaments are a way to prove that. Like I'm on Team CDH, so at least there's some kind of validation in that, but there's also like a stress of not letting them down. Of being like, hey, people believe in me that I'm good enough to play with the big dogs. So you can't prove them wrong, but at the same time, you've already proved them right for being there. Which is a weird spot to be. It's kind of it feels a lot like in high school when your coach was like, "Hey, we're depending on you to make this play, and then when you make the play, it feels amazing, but when you don't make the play, it kind of sucks." Like, let me tell you, when I got 17th at the, it wasn't 17th, it was like 20th at the regional championship at the end of the year, I felt bad. I was like, wow, I let myself down, most importantly, because I could have just played a track set with a proven track record and probably made top cut, but I played a bad Nimrus deck, so there was like some kind of letdown there. But the tournaments, number one reason why I do it is the people. Um, I wouldn't be playing CDH if it wasn't for Brandon, Elmer, Cody, because they really take people in and accept people, which is an amazing part of the community. Is we're also open and caring about everyone else, even if it's not like someone you go to weeklies with every week. Like, we can, like, Dylan is really good friends with Atlas. Atlas knows all of us. Every time we see Atlas, he's like, "Hey, how is Dylan doing? How is college going?" And I'm just like, "Wow, this is some guy that you've played Magic with like 4 or 5 times before,
Yeah,
that you don't really need to actually care about it. You don't want to, but you do, because this is the community and what we build." And that's like the coolest part to me, is that there's a community that anyone can like turn to and they'll be supported.
yeah. No, the community's just it's an amazing community. Like, and the community really weeds out the people that don't fit within the community, right? Uh,
Yeah,
so it has a tendency to stay very supportive and positive because they don't put up with anything. The CDH community does not put up with people being like bigots or anything, and just
yeah,
I don't know, it's amazing. Everyone just cares. It's a small community compared to a lot of card game communities. So everyone's pretty tight knit. You will go to a tournament, you'll know a lot of people. Like I'm sure when we go to Puttin City, we'll know most of the people there, or a good number of them.
yeah,
Um, at least of the larger players. And like it's so fun. It's not super cheap. But it's worth it. It's I don't know. The people are nice, which is hard to find in communities.
yeah. It's like, and we all have like the same goal of to win essentially, but to
Yeah.
do our best to make sure we don't make misplays, and we play to the best of our ability, which is something you don't see a lot. Which is like my biggest turnoff to Commander, is that there's all these like hidden rules on what you
Yeah.
can and can't play, and like these spite plays and stuff like that. And it's like, no, you're just playing Magic. Play your
Yeah.
cards, which is like a Rog size favorite saying when you try to politic with them. No, just play your cards.
Which is just dumb. That's not
Um,
the format. Like,
yeah, yeah.
It's a
But
social
yeah,
format and a social game.
it's a
yeah,
social format, which I agree with. I love the social aspect of it. I just don't like when people are like, "Hey, you can't play these cards," and it's like,
yeah,
no, it's not on the ban list. Let me play with my dumb cardboard rectangle and beat you with it, and then
yeah.
don't cry about it.
No, and like the CDH community,
Maybe I'm
or
selfish.
if you're not playing in like a tournament, I guess even in tournaments, you'll be playing and someone will be like, well, in theory, you could have done it this way and it would have just like worked out better, right? Like you help each other,
Yeah,
even if you're in like the most competitive level. Like everybody wants to help everyone grow, and because the
yeah,
better your opponents are, the better you become. And like,
And the better your
yeah.
games
I'm
are.
sharp something.
Nobody enjoys
Yep.
the games where somebody just tramples the whole table because
yeah,
they've
or
like just
yeah,
playing better. Like it doesn't feel good for anyone there, even if you win.
or like when
Yeah,
one
or if
person
there's
just
like a super big misplay,
yeah,
it also takes the fun out of the game. Like your opponent has a mental misstep, and they choose not to counter like your Git probe after you vamp tutor, and you win the game because of it. Like, it's a big feel bad.
Yeah, like they could
Because it
have
was like an
stopped you, they
obvious
just
play.
didn't know what was going on. And
Yeah,
it's like the
yeah,
CDH
which
community I
is
feel like
something
is
we all
really good
support.
about teaching each other and like using those as learning moments, which is really cool and I think not very common to see. in a lot of
No,
communities.
especially like competitive
Yeah, for sure.
communities. Like if you go into like competitive like modern or something, you're not going to have your opponent be like, oh yeah, you could have done this better and you would have won the game. Like they're just going to let you make the misplay and just live with it, um, and not try to help you. It's like survival of the
Oh,
fittest
good.
in most competitive
Go
card
to
games.
game 2 and abuse you again for
Yeah.
the same mistakes.
No.
Yeah.
The only other card game I found that's quite similar is Flesh and Blood, because it is a small, I guess it's no longer that small of a community, but it still acts as though it is a small community, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not an
I
easy
will say
thing to
though,
find
when Flesh and Blood players like try to help you, they do be kind of speaking another language.
a little bit.
Because they're kind of like, well, 5 turns ago, you blocked with just this. You would have had a 2 attack, bigger attack, so I
Yeah.
would have to block with one more card, and I'm like, okay, calm down.
The basis of the game is not as easy to understand at the competitive level as competitive Magic is. Although I think the intricacies are quite similar.
Yeah,
Just starting the competitive scene of Flesh and Blood is not. You have to know the game very well to be competitive with it.
Unfortunately, read the card explains the card does not seem to apply as well in Flesh and Blood.
Well, yeah, I think
correct.
that's mostly because of pitch stacking, but that's another
Yeah.
entirely.
All right. So, what are goals for the upcoming tournaments? Like Dylan, what's your goal for Punt City 3? Like, do you have like a certain win-loss record in the back of your mind, or like just having fun, or whatever it may be?
I'm essentially just going to have fun. Like, it is going to be. It's about the same size as Oktoberfest, and it'll be similar. It'll be good to go back. It might even be the same venue, and just proof that I have grown as a player. I think I won one game at Oktoberfest. I would love to make Top Cut. Are they doing a top 32 again, or is it going to be top 16?
I think it's a top 64, cut to top 64,
Yeah, that would make sense.
and then top 16, and then top 4.
Yeah, I mean, even if I just make top 64, I'll just be happy. Like making a top cut would be sick. Put my name out there. Top 16 would be sick. I feel like I've been playing the format for long enough that should be able to do it. Especially if I pick up a deck that has blue in it. Because Rocco
Yeah, because you've
not in
been
a good
close on
spot.
like online tournaments.
Yeah, with Rocco, I mean, I've placed in between 20 and 16th. In the last 4 tournaments I've played with Rocco, and it's just like I guess the biggest thing is I don't want to make like a big game throwing misplay, because that is usually what keeps me out of top 16 in most tournaments, and that is just something that if I can go through a tournament without just throwing a game, I'll be happy.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about you, Nick? What are your goals for the upcoming tournaments?
Yeah, I'm just hoping to like have at the end of the day, like at the end of the tournament, I'm hoping to not feel bad about my play patterns and feel like I played to the best of my ability. And if I lost, like it wasn't because I majorly misplayed or played poorly, is my main goal.
Yeah.
I'm less concerned with overall placement than I have been in the past, which I think is good, and represents a little bit of growth. Because rather than focusing in on like, oh, how did I place in this tournament, it's like, how well is my gameplay coming along? How am I improving?
Yeah. Yeah, my goal for at least this upcoming one this weekend is top cut, so 10th or better. Ideally make final pods, but then beneath that, be able to beat the players that I know I should beat, and be able to compete with the players that I know I should be able to compete with. Which is kind of like judging someone based off their skill level when each and every game is different. But like, I know I'm a good enough player to play against like the Atlases and the Tyler's, and the Jacobs. But it always seems like in the tournament time, they always have like an edge up against me. Which is going to be a big focus of mine, is being able to get down to the technical stuff, which is why I'm trying to stick with one deck or a similar style deck throughout the year, to make sure I can become consistent, because I think that's something that they, at least Atlas and Tyler, always have going for them, is that Tyler always plays like Tivit, and then Atlas always plays Kenrith, or like even Alan also only plays Tivit, and they're really good at their craft. And I might be like, you can say I'm an overall better player than them, but when it comes down to the tournament, their experience with their decks give them the upper hand, and I want to shrink that. And I think this is a good first tournament to attempt to shrink that. I don't plan on being able to beat them consistently, basically ever. I just think at the level that people assume I am, or that I believe that I'm at, I should be able to be competing with them consistently, instead of just having them on the mental battleground be consistently better than I am.
Yeah, I think it's a great proving ground, these next couple
Yeah.
tournaments, because we will see them a couple times, I'm assuming.
Yeah, at least twice.
I would really like to place better than Atlas at Fun City. That would be awesome. It's not exactly a goal, but it would be pretty sick.
Yeah,
But I'm assuming Atlas is going to make top 16 of Fun City. He is
I don't
a
know.
player.
Atlas is such a good player, but I think part of this is coming in a thesis episode down the line, but I'll give a little sneak peek. I think it's because of his presence inside of the community is what gives him the edge.
Very possible.
Because like people trust him and believe what he's saying, so he's able to like use his words to manipulate a way to where his window stays open a little bit longer than it should.
Oh yeah, he's totally just talked me out of wins before. He's been like, "Oh yeah, I totally triggered for an oppo," and I'm like, "Fuck!" Like,
Yeah.
oh no, my Rocco deck folds to this one card.
Yeah.
Like,
That's another thing I want to be able to do, is work on my tongue. Like, I'm already really good at politics, but the way that Atlas and like other players articulate their politics is something I have to work on, because I can politic my way out of most situations. It's just how I articulate it to make it so how they understand what I'm doing. Because a lot of the times it backfires sometimes on my politics, where I have to resort to like showing them my hand,
yeah,
which I'm trying to avoid this year.
no, politics is definitely
Sometimes it's
my
the
weak
power
point.
play you need.
Yeah,
I do it a lot, let me tell you.
I'm aware,
that is
actually.
definitely something that shouldn't happen so much in your games. So like,
Yeah.
politics I
Yeah,
think is
it's
the
something I'm
hardest
going to try improving. Yeah. But I think when I need my Atraxa to resolve on turn 10 and showing them my hand, sometimes I need to do that. So my Atraxa resolves on turn 10.
I
See,
feel like
I don't
that's a
think
reasonable case.
I don't think you should reveal your hand, because it's not your Atraxa should not resolve on turn 10, no matter what the board state is, no matter what's in your hand, because there's
No, I
potentially
100%
7 new
agree.
cards.
No, I agree. But when it works, it works. So if revealing my hand makes it so I get 7 new cards or 5 new cards, it's something I'm going to do.
Yeah,
When your back's against the wall, you gotta pull out everything you got.
Yeah. And my
no,
back seems to be up against the wall a lot recently.
yeah,
You're telling
that's
me. I don't know what it is, but my particular weak point when it comes to politics is being able to convince people that I'm
Gilded
not the
Drake.
threat when I am in fact actually not the threat.
Yeah, no, like
Yeah, I
playing
seem to
Rocco.
eat every Gilded Drake ever.
Yeah, people do not like Rocco, and like I will literally be sitting there with like 2 lands and nothing else on board, and someone will be like, "He's gonna win on like his next turn," and I'm like, "Hold up, like I
Well,
can't
with your
do
2 dock
anything."
sides, you will.
Like, no, that's part of the reason I'm switching off of Rocco for the time being. People are so afraid of the deck. Like the deck hardly puts up results, and people are just like, so afraid of the concept of just having a tutor in your command zone, which is fair. But like, the deck
Look,
doesn't
man,
just
Cedh
win.
is scary.
True, Cedh is. I feel like people should be more scared of Cedh than they are. In my experience,
Yeah.
people respect Rocco more than they respect Cedh, which is funny, because one deck puts up a lot of results, the other does not.
Well, Cedh for me now is just a kill on site commander.
Oh yeah,
It's just now in that realm. Like before, I could be like, okay, I can let it resolve, but now if I have a Force of Will and someone's casting a Cedh, it's getting countered.
Yeah, I've seen
Oh,
way
yeah.
too many. There's far too much variance in what they can put in the deck to know exactly what's going to happen, and the amount of lines that can
Yeah.
be strung together through the Cedh tutor and mana chains is insane.
And I think,
Yeah, and with
Especially
my
now that we have
experience,
Cauldron.
yeah, with my experience now, it's also that every Cedh player doesn't know how to stretch their truth. They're just most of the time straight up lying.
yeah, they'll be like, oh, Cedh isn't even necessary for the deck. And it's like, well,
Or they're like, I don't think I know a line here, and it's like, no, you have a
to lay
line.
out a 12-step line on their next turn. Like,
Yeah,
no, really
yeah.
interesting
There
though.
was a Cedh player at a tournament, and I knew his deck list because I helped him with some of the ideas in it. And it was during the championship tournament, and he was like, I don't think I have a line here. And I'm like, you do have a line. It's right here. And he's like, yeah, but you can let this resolve. Like, it's not the end of the world. Thank goodness someone used their
Goodness.
Force of Will on it. So he didn't just win, but there was just a line. And he was like, I don't think there's a line. And then he was like, oh, wait, yeah, there is. Thanks for reminding me. And it's like, I've played a Cedh deck 3 times now.
Yeah.
You know the line. You've been playing this deck for 9 months or a year, 2 years, whatever it may be. I forgot how long that player's been playing. But it's like
Yeah.
they know the lines, so you can potentially see a little bit of a line. There's 100% a line.
No, it's really interesting because at the Boil, there were multiple Cedh decks that were just no bad card Cedh. And if that, I feel like that's what Cedh is going to have to evolve into, because I think people are finally starting to realize, oh, Cedh is kill on sight. Like, the commander should not resolve. But if people start pivoting into like this, I'm just going to play a 5-color deck. Like, I'm going to play 5-color soup with this really compact win con in the command zone. And the deck's going to get a lot better.
Yeah, and just incidental ability to tutor up like a Gaia's Cradle or
like Talion.
Just other useful cards.
Let's have
Yeah,
Talion
I mean
in the
that's
command
what
zone.
that's what a player down south, in like Izaquai area, Kalira is like her Discord name or their Discord name, and it's no bad cards, clam chowder, Cedh, and like they got top 4 in a tournament in Bellingham.
Who was it who did
Got
that?
top 4 in another tournament, and then top 4 in another tournament online just after that. And it's like, I think no bad card Cedh is the way to go, because that's what they were experiencing was us just killing Cedh over and over and over, so they had to adapt.
And I
And
think
Cedh
that brings
runs
us into kind of like
a
another
lot
point
of
of
bad
like
cards.
tournament prep I want to talk about. Adapting like to the meta, and specifically like if you're going to a local tournament, you're gonna know generally a lot of the decks that you're gonna see there. And so you might bring like a silver bullet tech card. Like if you know you're gonna face a ton of decks that are flickering creatures, maybe you put a containment priest in. Who knows?
Yeah.
But like if you don't know and it's a blind meta, you kind of have to assess certain card slots in your deck and be are there going to be cases where this card is just not good? Like Red Blast,
which
pretty
I
much
know.
always good, but sometimes it's useless.
Oh yeah,
you never know.
I'm gonna post this Cedh list in the Discord because it's fascinating. This is just genuinely, this is the deck that top 16.
Speaking of silver bullets, though, I do know like a little bit of the meta breakdown that we're gonna be seeing this weekend. Currently there is 4 Atraxas that are registered.
Oh my gods.
There's 5 Kenriths.
So Dress Down.
There's 3 Tivets that we know. Well, these are most likely. These aren't guaranteed. But these are most likely. There's 3 blue farms, and there's 3 Sisseys, are like the
Good God.
guarantee, almost like guaranteed number that are going to be here.
Okay.
And then there's going to be a guaranteed at least 1 Rogsai. There's most likely going to be 2, because I think Jack's most likely going to rebuild Rogsai for this tournament. But there's at least 1 guaranteed Rogsai. And then there's 3 red black turbo decks. Either it's like a Dargo Ikra or whatever it may be, red black base turbo decks that aren't Rogsai.
I think Florian will be stressed out. I will be right back. I'm gonna go use the bathroom.
Yeah, so like that's
what we
based
can
off of
expect to
this.
see this weekend.
Yeah,
Interesting.
based off of this, it's gonna be a mid-range hell.
Yeah. Ugh. You're making me
imagine
want to change decks, but oh well.
there's, I think there's 2 Crom Franciscos, and then there's I think there's 2 Atalis, or people that typically play Atali, at least.
Okay.
So like it's weird because it's a lot of mid-range, but there is still a decent amount of turbo.
Gotcha.
And then I think everything else is going to be one-ofs. Maybe it'll be weird again, and there'll be like 2 Paco Halden. I think the last tournament there was 3 Paco Halden, which is kind of a random deck to see. There's probably going to be 2 Cricks because there's 2 really big Crick players in the community. Yeah, so I think it's going to be wild.
From the sounds of it, it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing really any stacks decks at all.
Yeah, you might see 1 or 2. I do think Stacks is in an amazing spot right now, if we're being real. I've been messing around with Torsten, and Collector Roof kind of just wins you the game if they don't remove it, or if you have protection for the removal.
Yeah, if you can get to a board state where you have a couple back-breaking pieces and ways to protect them, you can hold a game down so hard.
Yeah. And it's not even like fair to your opponents at that point, just because of how brutal the Stacks pieces are.
Yeah, I think it's an archetype that's it's due to rotate back in at some point. People just have to get back around to it.
That's why I was messing around with Timna Thrasios. It's because you can play the Silver Bullet Stacks pieces that just bend someone over.
Of which there are
while
plenty.
Still having a unique plan. Yes, there are plenty. Well, I think I've talked about everything that.
No, I think as far as tournament prep, we've pretty much covered what I have to say on that subject. Fair. I'm just interested to see how this next tournament shakes out.
True, and of course next week I'll give an update on how we all did and stuff like that. Dylan, anything you want? Oh wait, he fell in the toilet. Well, thank you for watching, guys. This was CDH The Lost. Bye.